Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Creative Conversations, where we talk to artistic leaders from across the country. Last week we were in California. This week we are right here in New York City, probably within 8 miles of my apartment. We are with Mary Candler from Hedgehog Ensemble Theater. Mary, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, whatever that means these days.
Yeah, exactly. We were just talking before the interview, much like last week with Mark Brewer, about what it means to see how you're doing. So, how are you navigating things over there in Brooklyn?
You know, I'm really, we're going to get into this more, but I'm so grateful to be a spunky little indie theater company that kind of can ebb and flow with the changes here. So, doing all right, continuing to teach, continuing to bring my theater company together, just trying to keep connected.
Great. So that's a great segue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Hedgehog?
Sure. Well, Hedgehog was founded in 2012 by me and Gwendolyn Kelso, and our mission is to elevate the voices of women by expanding the classics. And we have an ensemble company, so we have 18 actors right now that are members of our company, have been with us for many years. And one of the tenets of all the work that we do is about nurturing and supporting artists over time to create those kind of deep artistic relationships that work. So we have this little mini community, and we're spending a lot of time together talking about how we're doing as artists, how we're doing as people, how we're doing as, money makers trying to pay rent and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, it's unique. Everybody I've interviewed so far has a resident company, us
Oh,
included.
interesting.
You, Delaware, PCPA, which was a lot of people thought was kind of extinct. But then the first 3 and me is 4 for 4. So what benefits do you find? I asked Sandy Robbins the same question. So what benefits do you find having an ensemble that you go to all the time?
You know, I don't want to start this from the negative, but I think it's the easiest way to explain it. Having been an actor in New York and gigging out again and again and again, you work so hard to create chemistry and like unique ensemble listening with a group of people. And I always feel like you rehearse and you create a tiny little ensemble for one show. And then that show ends, and on closing night, you finally feel like, we're just getting it. We're just finding the show. And then all that energy, all that potential energy is just lost to the wind because all those people go a million different directions. But to have a resident company, we call it an ensemble in our case, it really harnesses that power so that when we start the next show, we've already laid so much groundwork. We can start rehearsal so much deeper into the process because we know who knows what, we know who's good at what, we trust each other, and therefore I think the work is richer. Not to mention that I think an audience responds to seeing people in different roles and creating their own relationships with artists over time. It makes the audience another kind of ensemble member that is part of that process and that conversation.
Absolutely. It's we talk about it a lot at Titan because we hire roughly 15 to 20 guest artists a year outside of our resident company. And every time they come in, there's that kind of like light bulb moment when I can give a note to a resident company member who I've been working for 5 years in 3 seconds. And then I go to them, I go, okay, now, and they're like, and what, it's not a negative for them, but it's like, oh no, I've been working with them forever. And being in New York like we are, time is money, and we work at breakneck speed. And sooner, better, faster is more important to us than a lot of other areas that can rehearse 40 hours a week when we're like really flying. So that's it's been a real interesting thing to hear everybody talk about that. And exactly, it's that common language is invaluable.
And to your point about New York and time is money, we work on a equity showcase code, which really limits how many hours we have with actors. So, we don't have a 6-month process. Wouldn't that be a dream? I know no one has 6 months process, but that is ultimately the dream. And I feel like we kind of snowball hours together, even if it wasn't on the same show. We've kind of added to every process by just being together for so long.
Yeah, and you guys are really close knit. You do retreats and things like that, right? Why don't you talk about that a little?
Yeah. I force a lot of city dwellers to go out into the woods and experience spiders and gnats and mosquitoes. But we do monthly training, so even if we're not in production, every ensemble member is coming together to work and train and play and be silly together. Every ensemble member is on a team. It might be outreach, it might be kind of internal development, but there's like a monthly phone call where we gather. And then there are these crazy retreats where we go off into nature and sing kumbaya and do a lot of training. So it's a pretty deep experience.
Yeah, and I think your semantics are great in terms of ensemble versus resident company. You seem to have this, like everybody within the company has another job. It's more of a commune, more of an ensemble. In terms of us being a company that is like, yeah, you're part of it, but then I might not see you for a couple of years. If you're
Yeah.
gigging out and things like that, you have a very committed crew. So
It's
congrats
something
on
that
that.
thank you. It's something that we work really, really hard, and it means that not everyone is the right fit for our company. You really have
Yeah,
to want something super specific. You need to be an actor that also wants to be a producer, a curator, a person involved in the administration, someone that really wants to have their hands in deep, and that's not for everyone.
yeah, you're right. You're right. And how you get to finding that core group is always sometimes fun, sometimes a painful experience.
It is. It is.
Um,
We've learned a lot over the 8 years that we've been working, refining that process.
yeah, making theater ain't easy in any way, shape, or form. So God bless you for that. So before all this happened, what were you working on?
Well, here's the great news for Hedgehog. Before all this happened, we were working on a digital project. And
That's
our
convenience.
I know, and I have said so many times I'm like overwhelmed with gratitude for the season that we inadvertently planned that seems to be able to handle this COVID situation in a way that doesn't completely derail us. So we're working on this project called Expand the Canon, and it is an advocacy project. We are advocating for classical plays written by women that are worthy, that are producible, that are excellent, and we are gathering through crowdsourcing tons of play ideas, forgotten plays that academics know about, that theater historians know about, that literary managers and dramaturgs know about. We're crowdsourcing these. Our ensemble and our reading committee has been reading plays, which is extremely convenient because it's a
Yeah,
great,
it's a
great
really good time to
pandemic
be reading.
activity. So we've just been reading plays and curating what will be a list of plays that we want to advocate for country or for theaters across the country to consider producing in their theaters, so that we also have classical works by women on our stages, because they do exist, they are excellent, and they have just been left behind.
That's amazing. So you're looking for, define the word classic for you. Classic themed or classic before a certain time area, so that people
Yeah.
watching that may either have a play that is classically themed versus a play that they know about that they did somewhere. So
Yeah,
if
so
you
we
put
are defining classics fairly broadly as anything written before 1945. Um, uh, that generally puts us in the public domain world, although not always. So anything 1945 and before. Of course, we've got a lot of people submitting opera Ben works, but we've also got some amazing other writers. We've got Sor Juana Inez de la Cruz coming up. We've got some Italian plays, some other Spanish plays. Um, and it's exciting to collect these all into one place. And there are some other groups that have done great work in this arena and created great databases of these plays. But for me, as a producer, when I was like, I run a feminist theater company that does the classics. Like, of course, I should be producing these plays. And
yes,
I became so overwhelmed looking at these databases with hundreds of plays. Like, I didn't know what was relevant, what was going to speak to an audience right now. So we're really trying to say, like, here are 8 plays, just 8. They are good, they are relevant. There's a place for them right now. So that if you're a producer with zero time on your hands to read a lot of plays, at least it's a really we've removed as many barriers to entry as possible. So 1945 is our cutoff for classical plays by women.
excellent. That's a badass program.
Yeah,
You,
we're
you're
psyched about it.
you're the first one to make me cuss on this, and I'm not going to edit that out. So good job. Cool. Let's get into it a little bit. Right now, the world is a unique place. It is scary at times. A lot of us, especially in the business of bringing people together, usually into a crowded space, we're all dealing with that. What do you think could be? What do you see? What is Hedgehog working on that could be the next step for the art form? What do you? And it could be outside the box, inside the box. What you're working on, what you
Yeah.
think could be.
So
It could be.
I have like a lot of course, so many different thoughts on this that are wrapped up in my fears and my hopes, and sometimes practical, sometimes impractical. While we are working on a digital project now, that's not to say we don't have other shows lined up for this year. We were, at least at the beginning of the year, intending to remount our annual Christmas show, Little Women. At this point, I am still moving forward with the assumption that we will produce, but I'm thinking about it in a really different way. And I think this is a place where an indie theater company, a smaller organization like Hedgepig, is lucky because we can pivot in this way. That we are in a non this show happens in a non-traditional theater space. So we're not looking at theater seating that is crammed next to each other. The capacity of the space is 65, but it's about where we put out seats. So we can easily, to still make our budget and numbers that we need to make to do this show, we can strip that down to 40, 45 seats and really space people out, which I think might be where theater needs to go for a little while, is making
Mm-hmm.
people not feel like they're crammed next to each other in the dark, but giving them that breathing room. We're also thinking about, you know, are there kind of branded masks that we can give
Mm-hmm.
out at the show? Sanitizing stations. I'll be honest that I've been lucky that the performance venues that we've worked at have done a good job at keeping things clean enough to my eye. But I think moving forward, that's going to be a really imperative conversation to say, like, what are you doing? What are we doing? What can we tell our audience that we're doing so that they feel really safe? Um, in terms of like innovating the art form in a way beyond that, I personally don't see theater becoming an online art form. I think that what theater is connection that's human to human. It is like, I can hear you breathing, I hear your gasp, you can feel my like life energy coming off of me and hitting you in the audience. And that is what makes theater unique and special and important. And I think that we're going to have a hard time for 2 or 3 years. I
Yep.
really do. But I also think that if we use this time to like train ourselves to become deeper and better artists, to think more deeply about humanity and the experiences that we're going through, that in 2 or 3 years, when people are comfortable coming back, the power of empathy building, the power of human togetherness is going to matter more than it has ever mattered. And it will, the conversation of like, oh, is film taking over theater is going to be like a simple no.
Yeah, it's
No.
really interesting you say that. And I want to piggyback it. I've been saying to a lot of the young people that are scared, like students and things like that, that I've been teaching, and I've been saying to other artistic leaders as well. And theater is in person. This what we're doing um, with online programming and online readings and all that. We, the collective theater world right now, is we have to keep creating. We have to adapt to make sure that we stay in the eye and make sure we keep providing something for our community. But that is not the long-term solution. You're exactly right. To hear someone breathe is palpable. I think we're in a renaissance of what we need to do now to come out of this in a time where people are going to be so hungry for theater that it's for human connection, for events of any kind. I think what we really need to be doing is staying sharp, because everyone's like, oh, theater's dying. It's been dying for 4,000 years and it has never died. So I think what we have to be doing now is prepping for our time, because when the doors open and it's safe and we can be responsible, I think we need to be ready to provide high quality content to see stories like the ones we tell um, hit and land in a unique way because people want to be by each other right now. They used to think they didn't, but now that that's been taken away,
And I
we're
totally, I'm sorry to
mhm.
interrupt you.
No,
I
no,
think
go
like
ahead, please,
I'm
please.
I'm piggybacking off of this too, and I think the kind of theater that Titan does, that Hedgepig does, in more intimate spaces and places where the audience is like really up in it, is the way forward. Is the ways that we can start to strip down the space in between us, strip down some of like the over. This is my aesthetic, of course, stripping down a lot of production values, allowing actors, humans, to be the forefront, to be the storytellers, to be the sound vibrations in the space. I think that is what is going to be so important, and to really give that kind of connection to the audience and to trust our audience to receive that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And what's so cool about having a conversation with you, because we have these malleable spaces that both of us work in. You go find yours, and we're at the Queen's Theater, but we also can manipulate that space any way we see fit. And a lot of the guests we've had have these huge issues with these huge budgets and buildings and all these things.
Yeah.
As we've gotten bigger, it's all been about a building. And now I'm like, oh, thank gosh we have a building. And that we're, in residence with a great theater company. So, yeah, to hear you talk like that, it's kind of, it's fabulous to see how we can do that. And the smaller theaters that can open way before the bigger ones can, that cap isn't going to be big enough for a lot of those big theaters for a long time. So it's gonna fall on our shoulders. So, and I know you're ready. So, okay, with that, what have you been able to do right now? And as you're moving forward with things, you talked about the ensemble, and maybe it sticks with them. What have you been able to provide in terms of support and things like that, helping them?
I do think for us, it's really been about gathering an ensemble. And our we have our monthly trainings that are a couple hours long, and normally our check-in at the beginning is a pretty brief process. It's like, I'm doing fine, this is how I'm feeling, moving on. Maybe someone has a great announcement, great. But our trainings have turned into 30% check-in and
Mm-hmm.
30% sharing fears, excitements, how we're surviving in this world. And some of our actors are not in the city right now. At the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
it, they got out of town. So we're spread all over the country right now, and to check in with each other and still know that something has stayed the same. This like monthly heartbeat has stayed the same. I mean, we're online.
Yeah.
Digital trainings in a fairly, what we normally do is fairly physical work, are strange, but the connection is really there. We've been able to host, we were supposed to do a live launch event for our Expand the Canon initiative, and we of course canceled that. It was on March 31st, but we were still able to do an online launch party. And what I found super interesting, and something that I will probably take with me moving forward, is that we have a lot of supporters across the country, people that support our artists, that care about our mission, especially with Expand the Canon, because we're really talking to people at theaters across the country. It's been cool to have these people attend our digital events, and in
Mm-hmm.
a way that they were always left out of the stuff that we did that was hyper local. We are in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and we really try to put our programming there. So while I don't think we're never going to do an online production, we'll do online readings potentially, but I really love the idea of having events and such that invite a larger audience in across the country. And also, something that we do with a lot of our productions is we do pre-show panels. So we bring in experts on a topic that relates to the play we're doing, helping our audience contextualize that play for a modern time. So an example of that would have been during Little Women, we had Soraya Chimeli, who is the author of Rage Becomes Her. She does the TED Talk on women's anger. She came in and did a panel with us on Little Women and women's rage, which is a huge theme in that book. Now that's cool. We did it on Facebook Live, fine. And whoever was in the audience got to see that. But imagine doing that conversation on Zoom instead and
Mhm.
being able to capture lots of other people across the country because the talk alone was standalone fascinating.
Yeah.
So in these ways, I think we can engage a wider audience, even if our productions are still hyper local.
Yeah, that's been the positive byproduct, and I think what a lot of us will pull from this. I don't think our online classes will go away. I don't even think the periodic online reading will go away. We had a couple people the other day going, "My mom's going to be able to see me perform for the first time in 10 years in this Shakespeare festival we have coming up," and there are positives, and it's not ideal, but there are silver linings in this. And I think it's how we can, again, talking about Renaissance, integrate this technology um, into what we do, but in a support way, not a meat and potatoes way.
Yeah.
It's the extra, you know, um, auxiliary stuff on the outside that we can use to expand our audiences. So a lot of people are going to see Titan stuff they haven't seen. A lot of people are going to see Hedgehog stuff that they haven't seen right now, and then hopefully when they travel to New York, they'll skip the $300 ticket for Hamilton and spend the $25 to come and see us.
Yeah.
Cool. With that, looking at 2021, you kind of hinted at it. What are you looking to do there? You've talked about your annual production of Little Women, like we do Christmas Carol. What are you thinking about for 2021 if everything kind of allows us to do that?
In 2021, that's interesting because right before COVID happened, I did like a 6-month consultancy with Forge Consulting, who I want to shout out as a really great arts consultancy group here in New York. They also work regionally to work on a 5-year plan for Hedgehog. So we really could set goals and benchmarks of where we wanted to go. And so I basically designed the next 5 years of programming for Hedgehog, which was very exciting. And then this happened. And of course, it's going to change where we're going. And maybe I'm being naive and thinking that it won't change things that much, but I really am hoping to hold on to the spirit of that plan, which is we will take next year to continue doing our annual holiday programming, continuing to build a tradition and an audience in Fort Greene, and also begin taking this project, expand the canon, and commissioning and developing modern adaptations of some of these plays. Some of the plays that we're like, okay, they're not quite producible right as they are, but with a contemporary playwright and working with an ensemble on this, we could really create a legacy for these playwrights that kind of goes beyond. So we're going to be doing a lot of developmental work next year as well, which I hadn't really thought deeply about, but in this current situation is another really great place for us to be, kind of working internally with Little Women being our outward facing project. We're also doing readings of these plays from Expand the Canon, trying to get them in the public eye some more. And I see no reason why that can't move forward as virtual readings and in person readings and what have you.
You've talked a lot about Expand the Canon. So as we near the end here, you do a lot of cool things other than the big projects. Shamelessly plug something else, like your quiz show nights or something like that.
Yes, I'll shamelessly plug 2 things.
Great.
One of them is next weekend. So on May 9th, we're doing one of our standard trivia nights. Are you smarter than a drunken knave? But this one is a Mother's Day edition. So we're doing a trivia night based on Shakespeare, badass ladies, moms, other wild card stuff. You don't have to be a Shakespeare expert. You don't have to be a mom, but we'll be throwing that down. You can check that out on our Facebook page. And we've also, here's another random thing that Hedgehog does. And I would love to encourage people to take our survey about this. We do professional development workshops for people not in the arts. So these are people in corporate America, primarily looking at how we can elevate the voices of women in the workplace by using some of the skills that we as classically trained actors are very adept in: vocal facility, presence, authenticity, intention, all of these things. And we do that in a corporate environment. So I have a survey that is live on our website right now. We're just trying to collect data with what people need, what people want, and what some of the skills are that people are hungry for.
Yeah, it's amazing the market that there is for that. I remember as a young actor, we used to pretend to be sick for the med students, and now as adults, we pretend to be really difficult employees or things like that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I have symptoms, and maybe now I'm like, yeah, I am an HR nightmare. It's a unique gig and a fun one, so it's a cool one to plug. All right, last two questions. The fun ones maybe. Even though we've had a great time up to now. It could go really, really south here, though. If you could do one play right now, what play would that be?
Here's the thing. I want to remount our 2019 production of Mary Stuart,
Mm-hmm.
about a queen in prison who has been sequestered for years and years and years of her life. I think that would resonate with a lot of people. And while we had a great run of it last year, I think that it matters more today. And I want to get the band back together, and I want to produce that play again.
Great, that's a great choice. I think we've had last week we had Servant of Two Masters, and then Skin of Our Teeth.
Ooh.
So
You know,
three.
I also, this is going to sound super cheesy, but I'm also like, I really want to do Little Women again because, we have this huge storyline of, Beth gets sick with a disease that's contagious and they quarantine Amy. And that's such a huge part of the story of like her going off, sequestering herself, caring for a sick person. And I just think that's going to resonate so differently this year. Um, and I'll be really curious to see how that sits with an audience in 2020.
Yeah. All right, the last part, which always makes me a little nervous, is I drill you for 40 minutes that we had it down to about a half an hour. You get to ask me any question you want, and I'll answer it as truthfully as I can.
I should have prepared for this long before, so I could have really grill you with one.
Everybody says that. They don't think about this one. They're like, I'll get them. And then they get there and they're like, that little punk.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I could ask you a fun question, or I could ask you one that I'm really curious about. And I'm going to go with the curious answer
Yeah,
question.
go for it.
So, in terms of digital programming, both that you've been presenting and that you have been seeing, I'm very interested in the ways that people are using this platform to their advantage to kind of elevate content. And I'm curious if you have seen or if you have participated in things that you think are particularly effective in making the Zoom call theater making experience particularly useful.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern was the level of the quality of content. Um, you know, Working with Zoom, we understand glitches, we forgive them, but ultimately those things take us out of the story, just like in a real show. The goal is to have people engaged and not look up at the lights. In this case, a glitch will take us out. So for me, one of the biggest concerns that started with the online programming with the Shakespeare Online and then led into a successful reading of Last Train to Nibrock for the Queen's Library, and now this crazy idea of an online Shakespeare festival, is how to make sure the technology is at the highest level so that glitches and things like that don't interrupt the storytelling. And that's hard, and we can't pretend that this is theater like we talked about earlier. It's not theater, but we need to do something to make sure that we progress the art form and that are relevant, and we're providing our community with things. So the biggest concern I had was indeed, making sure the Zoom experience was something that was going to be successful, and how to control the quality of that. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm excited to see that in action.
Yeah, well, it is an experiment, and we may fail, but we have to take risks, because if we weren't taking risks, we wouldn't be a theater company. We always have to be moving forward and doing what we do, because I know I'm not planning on taking 2 years off. I know you're not planning on taking 2 years off. So we have to keep moving the art form forward. Thank you for your time, Mary.
Of course, Lenny. It was nice chatting with you. It was nice seeing your face.
Thanks for chatting with you too. And we'll see everybody else in a couple weeks. Make sure you check out Hedgehog Theater Ensemble. And till then, stay safe, stay home, and stay healthy. Bye.